I'm Jansen.
And I'm Debbie Jansen.
And I'm sticking to the truth.
Yes, we are sticking to the truth.
We are just two motormouth mamas who are wanting to discuss current events with honesty and boldness.
We are truth warriors. No lie is too big and no deception too small.
And we are sticking to the truth.
Right. And are you sticking to the truth? Let's see what the truth is today. Julene, what is your 60-second or 2-minute tip for today?
Well, it might be 2 minutes, Deb. You know, we've got the elections coming up here in 2 weeks.
Yes.
Final countdown. And I'm starting to hear a lot of people go, oh, how should I vote? And I don't think they're asking me how to vote on the big presidential election, but, you know, at the local level or within the state with initiatives and judges and that kind of thing. And so, you know, look, I always say if you're confused, just pull out your handy dandy pocket constitution and then go to the candidate's website or platform and compare the two, right? But what if you're like, I don't have time to do that for 10 judges or, you know, all the people that are running for Congress or at the state level. And so, you know, I think, Debbie, one of my litmus tests is where do they stand on life, right? I vote my biblical values. So I want to know how they are defending, you know, the life of that little unborn child, first of all. And then when it gets down to some of the smaller, lower level leadership positions, I think I had just recently, like the last few days, one girlfriend of mine, she's been in the political arena for years now. She's taught little classes to children and written some books. And she has amassed like a list of over 100 people that she texts how to vote. And a lot of them are her little church friends. And so she just told me last night, she sends off her listserv, I think is 130 now, and she just gives her picks. And then because they trust each other, I guess they worship together. And then one of my little girlfriends who attends a cottage meeting, like a weekly, you know, liberty study group, like Bible study, but a patriotic Bible study for liberty. There, she told me today they're meeting today, Wednesday morning after class. They've all brought their little booklets that you get in the mail a few weeks or a month before telling you the initiatives and who's running. They're going to open up their booklets and they're all going to go around together. And in keeping with the Constitution and their values, they're going to pool their knowledge about all these candidates and initiatives and figure out how to vote. So you can always go and ask trusted people if you're of the 11th hour and you don't know who to vote for. That would be my 122nd tip for the day.
That was great. Wow. Maybe a bunch of us need to go back and listen to that again. Great advice, Julene. And I'm going to add to that. See, I always like to vote my faith, just like you were talking about. But I'm a list taker. So I keep a pad, pen with me all the time. And as an author, you have to do that because when you have an idea, it doesn't stay with you unless you write it down. So I'm always making my list. And I look at things like I take my Bible and I sit down before any election and I take the points that are the most important to me, like you said, with life. But also, I just cannot trust anybody that lies. I can't do that. So I have the 10 commandments sort of in that do not lie, do not steal, if a candidate breaks some of those, that's pretty much it for me. So I have my list. I have my list of biblical things that I'm looking for, but then I also go into discernment. I pray for discernment all the time. So when I'm listening to a candidate speak, or even when I watch an ad, or I have those printed ads that they send out in the mail, like you were talking about, I look for my impression, my discernment about, is this truth? Because that's why we're doing this podcast. We got to stick to the truth and we got to find out what the truth is. And once I have my list, and again, your suggestion was wonderful. talk to people you know and trust and see how they're voting. And then I put it all together so that when I walk into that booth, I know that the Holy Spirit and my faith and my logic and my friends and all of these have come together. So when I'm voting, I know I'm voting truthfully for a good candidate.
Oh, Debbie, I love that. Boy, you can't go wrong when you have prayer, the Spirit, and the Holy Word before you to guide you. I mean, I really do think the Bible is one of the best political manuals and examples of good governance. Like,
Yes.
don't we see the stories of how the people in the civilizations fare when you have a righteous, just king that follows God's law versus a wicked or evil king, and how that impacts, a nation and communities. So I love it. The Bible,
Good.
prayer,
Good.
and the Spirit. So good.
Well, while we're on the subject of faith, did you see the video where Harris told two young men that they were at the wrong rally because they said Jesus is Lord, and then instructed them to get out and go to another rally? Then in contrast to that, so, we were just talking about how to figure out the lies in candidates. This one made my head explode. In contrast to that, the very next day, she's in a church talking about her faith and how much she loves God. What do you think of that? What do you think she really meant? I
had to watch that clip several times because I was like, what did she just say? Did she really just say what I think she said? So it was at the University of Wisconsin, and she was speaking in support of abortion. And I don't like to say abortion because that makes it water it down to make everyone feel good.
Yeah.
Talk about killing babies, murdering babies. All right.
Yeah.
And then two young male students yell out, "Jesus is Lord." And then that's when she said, "Oh, you guys are at the wrong rally. I think you meant to go to the smaller one down the street." And, clearly the crowd sounded like she answered it really cleverly. They roared with applause. But I think for people of faith, it was so dismissive of faith.
Yes.
And mocking, really. And I thought, wow, that's kind of an insight as to how she views God's laws, and certainly in relation to the life of the unborn. I really did feel like it was kind of a window into her little soul. Like, her first response was, God is not welcome or wanted here. Well, what did you think about that?
Oh, well, this is a perfect example of how you can use discernment, or even just watching somebody's body language or how they respond to a question to see their heart.
Yeah.
Her heart, I don't believe, was in the right place because she didn't respond properly. I thought her statement was really mean, and it was a huge put down, not only to did she think for a second about the individual young men that said that? You cannot be thinking about, well, what is going to happen to them if I treat them this way, and still care about the person.
Yeah.
I was proud of the young men. They had the courage to stand up and to speak truth, even in an atmosphere that would most certainly mock them. And it did. They were pushed out of the place. People were yelling at them. People were telling them to get out. My goodness, what they went through mentally just to do that. I love Winston Churchill's quote in an October 29th, 1941 speech. He said this, and this was right before we were getting into the war and the war was raging. And he said, "This is the lesson. Never give in. Mm-hmm. Never give in. Never, 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 in nothing great or small, large or petty. Never give in except to conviction of honor and good sense." Now, when he put that exception in there, what he was saying is you can be convinced by logic, but don't give in unless you have the information that tells you to. And then he goes on, never yield to force, never yield to the apparently overwhelming might of the enemy, And I would add scripture to that, Romans 8:31. If God be for us, who can be against us?
Mm-hmm.
So if God is for us, never, never, never give in. And that's what those young men did. That verse reminds us that no one can threaten the purpose of God and what he's placed within us. The only way to experience defeat is if you surrender.
Mm-hmm.
I am so proud of those guys. And as far as her, I'm just, what was she thinking? How can this help her with anybody of faith? You just want to go, oh my goodness. I wonder if her team was going, oh, well, here we go now.
Well, I don't know if they are anti-God or anti-Christian. They probably thought it was super funny, and it was a really witty comeback. Who knows, But I know people of faith. It was like an arrow to our heart. It was like such a bold admission from her that she doesn't need Jesus. It's so interesting, Debbie. I mean, we have 2 weeks left before the election, and to me, I liken it to the last 2 minutes of a basketball game. We do a lot of basketball in our family, and it's like the game.
Your boys are big into basketball.
Yeah, I have some basketball players. I have birthed some basketball players. One kid was actually in the NBA for 5 years, and now one is playing for college. But anyways, I say it's like a really close basketball game at the last 2 minutes of the game, where it's like being fiercely going back and forth, and it's you can feel the intensity and heat of the moment, and the coach at that point puts the best player right in the game. The best player is not on the bench, and I always say, look, who is the best player in our life? It is God. So you get God in the game, and end times. You want him on your team. You don't want him on the bench. And, it was like she was benching God when she said, oh no, we don't do God in this rally. And so I just think that said a lot about her relationship with the divine.
Yeah.
She actually wanted to kick God out of the game. The best player on the team, she wanted him out of the game. And those little protesters, those young little students, they were removed. And so, I mean, like you said, I just think their example of getting on that wall and not standing down is really to be commended. But, like you said, a few days later or a day later, she was in the church. She was in a church in Georgia. And you're not going to believe what her message was. As I looked it up, it was to show more kindness and lift people up rather than be insulting. Now, she was referring to Donald Trump's brash personality. But I thought
this is going to take both hands.
Well, I mean, how disingenuous when she was completely insulting and mocking those young boys. And her message, the next day at church, was kindness, lifting others, and not being insulting, And so I was like, it's kind of like those Weasley kind of actions, And I know you've talked about, what are they? Those weasel words?
Weasel words. Let's stay with the basketball thing, because I think the weasel words will fit here. You'll have to tell me, because Jamie played basketball, but just for a little while. And I don't remember all the rules and the stuff that they do, but I know the coaches are sending out prompts to them, right?
Yeah.
And constantly in contact, just like in any sport, of what they need to do. Yeah. Well, all this back and forth like she has done, or like any candidate does. We're not just talking about Democrats, any candidate.
Right.
It makes me think of what I learned when I worked for attorneys. They would show me contracts and they would say, this is an easy one to break, or this one's a little harder, but I want you to find all the weasel words for me. So like somebody going in to play those last 2 minutes in basketball, they probably give them, go here, go there, find this, find that. Well, right. The attorneys were telling me, find the weasel words. Now, weasel word is something like maybe, perhaps, in time. Those kind of words that you can take to a judge and say, this wasn't hard, this wasn't a wall that we're going to die on. This can be broken because they said, by this date, and we are past that date. So you looked for any kind of word that would let you weasel around, you know? That's
Okay.
why I hate the word misspoke. Do you know? I mean, what kind of word is that? Misspoke. I misspoke. No, it's a weasel word for I lied.
Dang. Yeah.
If I didn't get the facts right, I can say, well, I didn't know the facts. But to say, oh, I misspoke.
Yeah.
No, you lied.
Yeah.
And the word maybe is probably code for it's not going to happen. So when a politician or a friend or a business partner says, maybe we'll get that done,
Yeah.
you know, in his mind, he's already, or she is already planning for how not to do it.
Right. Right.
And when our politicians' words matter,
Yeah.
what they say is, you're exactly right. It's that last 2 minutes of the game. What they say is a glimpse into their heart.
Yeah.
And what they do is a full-blown painted picture of their platform.
Yeah. Yeah.
If we don't want to be fooled by their lies, you have to pay attention to every little word and everything that they paint as a picture of their platform.
Yeah.
Everything that they do. What do you think, Julie?
Oh, I think you're right. Like, in the heat of the moment is when you see someone's true colors.
Exactly. You got it.
We saw her true colors, and then she probably thought about it and showed up to church the next day and changed her tune completely. You know, it's all about love and lifting up and not insulting, where maybe 24, 48 hours earlier, in the heat of the moment, boy, her first instinct was to zap him, to make fun of him, to kick him out, you know.
And she probably did change her mind after she revived her staff from their fainting position. Sorry.
I don't know. You give her staff more credit than I do. I think they're all cut out of the same cloth. I'm thinking
so.
They were patting their backs initially when it happened, and then when they saw some of the pushback from Christians, they thought, "Oh, okay, let's go to church and soften our sermon. You know, get those souls to the polls," kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, you quote a verse about. And it's leaving my mind right now about when the righteous, what is that verse? Do you remember when the righteous are in?
Oh yeah, when the righteous, or when the wicked rule, the people mourn. Right?
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
When we have leaders that aren't rooted, you know, in the commandments of God, and they're more commanded in, are rooted in what the world is saying is right, you know, the world's version of love, or the world's version of laws versus God's laws or God's love, that, you know, ultimately, how can the heavens bless the society when the leaders have turned against the creator, right?
Yes.
And then the people begin to, you know, feel the wrath of that kind of leadership or ruler, and they mourn. You know?
Yes. And you and I, because we talk a lot.
Hey, we got to figure out what we're going to say.
Yes. Oh, my goodness. Julene and I will be on the phone, and Ron will come in and say, is there any time today you might cook me something to eat? Because we're always talking. But I love how you talk about the linchpin of our rights in this country depend on righteous people governing, and how that works into the Constitution and to our stand here in this country is that we are built on better people and more righteous people governing us, because it makes us better, right?
Oh.
And it sets the stage for our rights to come from God, not the government.
Exactly. Well, I mean, and we get these principles from one of our most favorite books, The 5,000-Year Leap, which principle number 4, these were the 28 principles that our founding fathers gleaned to establish this country and this nation and government. And they said, look, without religion, this country is not going to survive. This government of free people is not going to make it, because this government of free people is based upon natural law, God's law. So people had to be good, so they would want to be inclined to make their laws based on Holy Writ, the laws in according to the scriptures. And so, I mean, look, our founding fathers knew that's why we needed God, not only, in church, but we needed him in our homes and in our schools and in our congresses and at the rallies. And it was those shared values of faith and God and freedom and family that really unified. Thomas Jefferson said, those are the things that unified and made our country, so strong. And we see in the first 100 years when we were really, there was no separation of church and state. That's a lie. And that's a misconstruction of what our founding fathers meant. And I mean, look, our father of our nation, George Washington, right behind me, he said, look, out of everything in the country, all the dispositions and habits that lead to political prosperity, it is religion and morality that are the indispensable supports. He said they are the pillars of human happiness, God and morality, religion and morality. And so they wanted our leaders to, be morally strong and virtuous. They wanted the citizenry to be morally strong and virtuous, because then we would be inclined to elect good leaders, religious or godly leaders. And so, I think that's what struck at our soul, our heart, when she said, oh, you're at the wrong rally. Jesus is not my Lord. You got to go someplace else.
Yeah. And
that was just so against the very principles that made us successful the first 100 years of our nation's history,
Exactly. And I can carry that into the psychological realm. Abraham Maslow was one of my favorite authors and psychologist. And he said, if you want a better nation, you have to have better people. Mm. Well, you can't force that on people. People are better because their heart changes. Yeah. And how does their heart change? With faith. When you put the principles that you're talking about, or God's principles inside a person's heart, they're going to change. Yeah. It just doesn't roll any other way. And when you take them out, when you take those principles out, they're going to change, but in a very different, destructive way. And so I agree with you 100%. 100%. Yeah. I love talking to you, Julene, because we come from different areas. I want to stop for a second. We got a couple minutes. I want to stop and talk about the two of us. We have such a good time together. And it's because I love what you have become in your life. You have studied faithfully our founding fathers. Go on momsforamerica.us and take some of Julene's classes. My classes are on there, but go on there and take her classes, because it gives you a new appreciation for where this country has been, how far we've come, and where we need to go in the future. So I love that. And then we turn it right around and come back to me and relationships and psychology and ministry. And we're mixing the two together. We're like a really fine, wonderful soup, that has all the different flavors and textures. And I love it. I love what you bring to this, Julene.
Oh, we're like Forrest Gump. We're like peas and carrots. Doesn't he have a little line? They go together so well. And I mean, I think, Debbie, you and I had mamas and daddies who prayed with us, who opened the Bible, and we read out of, the Bible, and they lived their lives were like a Bible. Right? Their example. We saw them in the church. They took us to church. We saw them taking the casseroles to the new little mama down the street.
Yeah.
So, they got it deep within us. And, sometimes I'll talk to moms, I'll teach moms, and they'll go, well, I didn't have a home like that. My mom, didn't do those things. I mean, what would you say to someone that's like, it's not that deep in me because I never saw it in my home?
What I always say, you know what you're missing. be the salt and light to everyone. And if you do a generational map and, well, here's my parents and my dad wasn't good at this and my mom wasn't good at this and this is how I turned out, draw a line right there and say, from here on out, I know a better way. And so I'm going to teach my kids, and hopefully they will teach their kids. And that's how we grow a better society. Because if mom and dad had problems and the child is now really mixed up and has problems, if we can help them see how to change their life, you not only change their life, you change all the generations coming down from that life. So that child is better, then their children are better, then they have children and they marry other people and those families get better, and you change society. Yeah. In 20 years or less, we can change society by saying, I'm going to draw a line. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do this. That's what I tell them.
Well, isn't it empowering to know that it is within us to start changing the generations right today? That if it is important to you right today, right now, it will be important to your generations coming behind you, just like you said. That you can stop the bad habits or the, traditions that didn't grow your faith or didn't inspire you, and that change can be, it's within you,
Yes.
And we don't have to continue to keep looking back and playing the blame game,
Right. You know what? I think this is a topic we should take up.
I think so.
I think maybe we should talk to all of our listeners that are having a hard time, that want to change their life, and they need some facts on how to do it. And we're going to get that information together, and we will do a podcast on that probably next time, Julene.
Maybe. I mean, we'll be... next week is 1 week out before election.
Oh, wait. Well, we may have a few more things to say before we all go back.
That victim mentality, that woe is me, that it's so much harder for me to do something than for you because of what happened in my past, will stop you dead in your tracks every time.
Oh, every time. But for today, because we're coming up on our end here, it seems to me that we've been living in a stressful time for 6 years. First, it was COVID, then the economic situation and social turmoil, and then all of the crazy ways they want to change who we are. And for years, many of our friends and families have suffered physically, mentally, financially, and spiritually. Yeah. So for all of our listeners, I want to say the first thing we need to do is stop believing the lies. Lies bring about depression and sorrow. Stop believing the lies and trust God to give you discernment and wisdom. Then we need to secure hope, peace, and strength. The Bible reminds us over and over, and I have it here. And it's not about this book. It's not about me being great or whatever. I just know that this book is full of things that will help you. So the Bible reminds us over and over about don't be discouraged. Don't be fearful. Don't be afraid. So in this book, that's why I wrote it, was to quote those many verses to help you out of fear and depression. It's not about teaching you how to pray. It's about encouraging you to pray and encouraging you to see hope in the future here in America, because we do have hope for the future of America. Right, Julene?
Oh, are you kidding me? We know who wins in the end. God prevails. So we just want to make sure we're on his team. We don't want to be on the other team. And I just think that we can be fearless and having this knowledge in us, and we know we're on his team when, we're wearing his jersey, we're doing the things that he does, we're warming up, we're doing the same strategies on the court, we're praying, we're studying, we're worshiping, we're serving, we're repenting, we're forgiving. I mean, all these things show him that we are seeking his team and his approval. And what it does is it qualifies us for those blessings, for those wins, for the Spirit to help us, to anchor us into hope when we're in, the fierce battle of the game. And so it's been so great to be with you today, Debbie.
Well, let me tell our listeners one more thing. The Bible is filled with commands like fear not, do not be afraid, be strong and courageous. And the best one of all is when God says, you can trust me, fear not. God calls us to big things. That's what we like about him. I like doing big things like this podcast. I like that. And God calls us to those. He accomplishes great things, and we are always in awe when he does. Yet the hardest thing for us to do is trust him enough to actually join him in those great adventures. We must overcome that fear. You must overcome that fear. We must keep going. God is with us. So thank you for being with us today. Subscribe to this podcast and join us again when we discuss fresh topics. Now, if you've got a topic you want us to talk about, you just email me at debbie@debbiejansen.com and we will talk about it. We'll have fun with it, won't we, Julie?
We will. Yes, we will.
Well, this is Debbie Jansen, and I'm sticking to the truth.
And I'm Julene Jackson, and we hope that you are sticking to the truth. Have a great day. See you next time.
Bye-bye.